it's Teacher Jocelyn. This time I brought one book that's a little bit scary and another book that is a calm down book. The scary one has a monster in it and it is called There's a Nightmare in My Closet. Have you ever read this? We also have this one, and also there's an alligator under my bed at school. And I have a feeling that this person wrote these books, Mercer Mayer, because a lot of kids worry about stuff like that. In fact, this book was my brother's favorite book when he was a little boy, and he's a big grown-up now. And I've read this to a lot of kids, and I think a lot of kids must be worried about scary stuff in their closet. I know I was when I was a kid. There used to be a nightmare in my closet. This kid's looking kind of worried with his closet door standing open. Before going to sleep, I always close the closet door. I was even afraid to turn around and look. When I was safe in bed, I'd peek sometimes. One night, I decided to get rid of my nightmare once and for all. Look at this, he's got an army helmet and a pretend gun. What's he going to do? He turned on the light. As soon as the room was dark, I heard him creeping toward me. Quickly, I turned on the light and I caught him sitting at the foot of my bed. Go away, nightmare, or I will shoot you, I said. Look at this nightmare. I shot him anyway. My nightmare began to cry. I was mad, but not too mad. Nightmare, be quiet or you'll wake Mommy and Daddy, I said. He wouldn't stop crying, so I took him by the hand. And I tucked him into bed. And I closed the closet door. I suppose there's another nightmare in my closet, but my bed's not big enough for 3. He's all tucked in with the nightmare. The nightmare needed somebody to sleep with and cuddle with. Oh, there was another guy in there. What now? Well, that is one of my favorites for a long time. And here's another one of my favorites for a long time when I was a little girl too. This one's called Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. That person also wrote The Carrot Seed, which is such a wonderful book. I wonder if I have a copy of The Carrot Seed. If you don't have one, you could get one at the library. One evening, after thinking it over for a long time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight, and he needed something to walk on. He made a long, straight path so he wouldn't get lost, and he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long, straight path, so he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. Does it ever look like the moon's following you when you're driving in a car or walking? The shortcut led straight to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got ripe. Red, it says up here. So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. Woo! I forgot this book has scary stuff in it too. It even frightened Harold. He backed away, his hand holding the purple crayon shook. Suddenly he realized what was happening, but by then Harold was over his head in an ocean. Whoa! He came up thinking fast, and in no time he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he'd sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry. So he laid out a nice simple picnic lunch. There was nothing but pie, but there were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. What do you think they were? Do you have 9 favorite kinds of pie? When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. He hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. And off he went, looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see, so he decided to make a hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped, and there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He made a balloon, and he grabbed a hold of it, onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of the windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. He decided to ask a police officer. The police officer pointed the way Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in his bed. And then suddenly Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed. He got in it, and he drew up the covers. The purple crayon dropped on the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. And that's that story. Well, sweet dreams, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.